Morning guys! So we are currently at the ferry port on our way to Goree Island. We couldn't make it out here yesterday because it's closed on Mondays. So we're coming out here today. We missed our first ferry. We were supposed to get on the 10 o'clock, but we missed it. So we're here waiting for the 11 o'clock ferry right now. I've got my Senegalese gear on. I'm supporting for the World Cup right now. They just won their game yesterday. My mom, we have matching outfits.
We're on the Lions.
So I'll show you guys once we get on the ferry and then land on Goree Island. Senegalese fruit. What is it? Puppies, what is this called?
It's them guitar.
Gita. Alright, let's try this. Whoa. Guys, you see that? So, got like the shell around it. You open the shell. That is such a crazy texture. It tastes like I just put powder in my mouth. Like it has like a... Oh. It tastes like powder. It doesn't taste like powder. The texture is like powder. That's so weird. It's good though. It's like a little bit sweet, but more so tart. So we just made it to Goree Island. It was a quick ferry ride, maybe about 15 minutes to get here. So the significance of Goree Island is it was an island used to transport slaves. So what they would do is they would capture slaves in the mainland Africa and they would bring them here to be transported to different areas. Europe, the Americas. So there's a lot that happened on this island. So I'm going on a tour to learn a little bit of history and see a few things. It's actually a really beautiful island. The water is so pretty. So this is a school on Goree Island, and it's like top of the line kids come here. So this is a sand painting gallery. So all of these paintings were made with just sand. Wow, well I'm not gonna touch it, but just with sand. Wow.
En tout cas, on a plus de 24 couleurs parce qu'on fait des mélanges. C'est ça qui nous permet d'en
Four
avoir.
colors from everywhere in Senegal.
Et on peut les teinter aussi.
The white
Je
one
vais vous faire une petite démonstration pour vous donner une idée.
you make the demonstration.
Voilà. Donc là, je vais dessiner avec la colle. Ça, c'est de la colle, ouais. On dessin avec. on fait l'inspiration.
So this is the slave house. They call it the slave house here on Goree Island. And this is where they would keep slaves before they transported them to different places. Upstairs is where the slave owners or the slave sellers would live. And then down here is where they would actually have the cells where they kept the slaves. So they had 5 different cells for men. And this is one of the cells. They would hold 20 men in here. And they would let them out once a day to use the bathroom and to eat. This small cell for 20 people locked in here all day. They had about 5 of these. There's another one here for the men. And then they had these cells, and these were for the children. And the God was telling us that they would split the children between boys and girls on one side. And as soon as the children were like 2 or 3, stopped breastfeeding, they would separate them from their mother, and they would hold children, 2-year-olds, in these cells. And then this cell would be for pregnant women. This cell was like a temporary holding cell. If you weren't heavy enough, they would put men who were smaller in these cells, and they would feed them until they were big enough to be sold. And then he was telling us that this is where you would go if you were being punished. They would throw you in this very small area, and they would leave you here. And this was the one for the men. And then they had another one here for the women. It's a very tiny space, and they would just leave people here indefinitely as punishment. This was the women's cell. And then they had more cells here for people who were being punished. And then they had 2 more cells on this side for men. And then down here, he was telling us that right before a slave would be traded, they would walk down here, and there are 2 holding cells on each side. So there's a holding cell here and a holding cell on this side. And this is pretty much the last thing someone would see before they were sold. So you know, when you got to this point, like, this was it. You were going to be on a boat, you were going to be taken away from your family, ripped from your country, and sold. And this was the last thing. This was the last thing that people saw. And it's crazy because this island is so beautiful, but it's so much pain and horror. I can't even imagine. It's just awful. Like, being here is so surreal to know, like, my ancestors went through this. Like, my family, my loved ones have gone through this with no hope, tied and chained.
while people who were selling them lived right above them, eating, praying with their family. I'm sorry guys, I had to take a second. It's a little overwhelming in here, so, but to continue, I'm upstairs. So this is where the slave owner's family would have lived. This is the back area. These are some of the chains that they would have on them, things that they would put around their neck. It's crazy to think that people lived up here and they lived their lives like nothing, while absolute terror was happening right below them. Just got back to Dakar from the island of Goree. Most amazing experience I've had out here. The island is absolutely gorgeous. Maybe one of the most beautiful islands I've ever been to. It's just crazy, like the tragedy that happened there, but how like beautiful it is today, and how like the Senegalese people have taken it back and it's their home, and you know, it's just so gorgeous there. So I just love that. Like, it's sad to see what was, but it's so good to see what is now. So awesome experience. If you're in Senegal, if you come to Dakar, you have to go to Goree Island for sure.